and welcome to tonight's show. This is Okemah Free Press. I'm Mark. I'm the editor and one of the journalists for Okemah Free Press. We've been in the media business for over 30 years, radio, TV, print, film. I'm a social justice journalist. I believe in giving people that do not have a voice to be heard. Stories that I write about are stories you won't see in mainstream media. Now, we have an upcoming show to talk on one of our streams in Mixer and YouTube on the media in America. You want to be sure to tune in for that. Coming up soon, we'll be interviewing. The music we're listening to is from a friend of mine, Brian Collins, who goes by the name of Nasty Purple. He has some exciting stories to tell. He's got some new releases with international appeal, so you want to always come back on. Now, we're going to stream once a week on YouTube and Mixer. In between, I'll be posting on our YouTube channel these little podcast updates from some of the stories that we write about. And we're going to look at some of those stories right now. The first one has been reprinted in India. I have a 4-part series. The third part just came out in the October magazine of Socialist Factor. If you go to our website, okemahfreepress.wordpress.com, you'll see all of our stories. In this one, we talk about what's going on with the left, changes that we need, and let me explain this. You have groups that have been around since the 1920s, other groups that have been around since the 1970s, and they worked for social change. They worked for socialism. A lot of people hate the term socialism. Well, let's look at socialism in America. Do you drive on public roads? Have you ever had to call the police, fire department, or an ambulance? Did you send your children to a public school? Did you go to a public university in your state? All those are social programs. Now, has yourself or anyone in your family ever received Social Security benefits? That's also a social program. So when people say they don't want socialism in America, they're lying through their damn teeth. They don't even understand what they're talking about. So one thing Okemah Free Press does is we are a leftist progressive news source. In the old days, we called them muckrakers. Mother Jones, Ida Tarbell, Sinclair Lewis, Upton Sinclair. All these people are known as journalists that use their time and talent and skills to expose the social ills in politics, government, and our society.
For the past year, I've been talking to New York City
officers who are in a fight. Within these groups that have been around since the 1920s or 70s, people are going to get upset and they end up leaving. They form a new group. New people get involved. Then they get upset. They go start their own group. So on and so forth exponentially. And I've always said this. What's strange is if everyone who identifies as a leftist were to receive a phone call, well, if we were going to say that it starts at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, the left is so fractionated and too broad with no clear plan that they wouldn't know what to do when 9 o'clock rolls around the next day. So let me explain it like this. I'm an independent. I grew up in a very Democrat family in Tulsa County, and our relatives ran the Democratic machine in Tulsa. So I have seen in the background as a child and as an adult the bribes, the big businesses that come in and offer senators and representatives shares in their company if they change legislation that will benefit their company. I'm no longer a Democrat because I believe that both the Republican and the Democratic Party are what is wrong with politics in America. They're both the same thing. They receive money from the upper 10% oligarchs who are fascists, and they're using their money to benefit themselves, their businesses, and their products. Capitalism has run wild. Now, do I believe in capitalism? Fucking A, I do. And the reason why? You take a farmer that grows his own vegetables and fruits and then takes them to the farmer market to sell. That's capitalism, and that's all right. But a corporate farm that does the same thing and sells to Walmart and all the other ones, but Walmart doesn't do that. I have an article that exposes that the produce that comes from Walmart is so cheap because it's grown by prison laborers at 2 to 10 cents an hour wages. So every time you eat, you're contributing to the prison industrial complex. We all need to do research. And one thing that I'm very good at is within my articles are links to the different stories and information so that you can do your research yourself. What I do is I present information to you, I back it up with credible news sources, but then it's up to you as an individual to take that information, weigh it in your own mind, make your own opinions. Your opinion may be different than mine, and that's fine. I'm not going to argue that because every one of us has a right to our own opinions. But what we don't have a right on is usurping the rights of others to have their own opinions. So, we look at capitalism and we look at what it has done. The answer is crushing capitalism. If every day of our lives we do one thing to crush capitalism, then collectively we're chipping away at it a lot faster. Makes sense, doesn't it? Capitalism in an open, free market can do well, but it has to be governed as President Abraham Lincoln said at the Gettysburg Address on how we were going to rebuild America after the Civil War. Is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. But what do we have right now? We have a government of corporations, by corporations, for corporations. And it's time that we stop this madness. I vote independent because we are 51% of the voting public in America. The independents alone can vote in whoever they choose to. The Republicans take up 23% of the voting public. The Democrats also take up 23%. And then you have about 4.5%, 3.5% to 4%, that is the Green Party and different parties that are allowed to vote in different states. So that's 49%. So 51% is independents. We have the power, but most independents don't vote, and I don't blame them. We don't need a two-party system. We need a new party that's of the working class, by the working class, for the working class. It's time we reinstill the values of unions across, because that's what's going to break capitalism. But the story goes on to talk about, in the 1970s, the Chicano moratorium, which was against the Vietnam War. And it was made up of teachers and students there in California. And what they were protesting was the federal government, through military recruiting and drafting, were targeting persons of color. It was not the whites that were being drafted. It was people of color. That's genocide. And it also gets back into the manifest destiny theme that has been around since colonization began on this planet by the Europeans. They think that because they're white and they're Christian, God has placed them here to rule over people. Well, fuck that shit. If you're spiritual, that's your own business. Be spiritual. Go to the church of your choice with your family in your town. But don't bring it into the government. There needs to be a separation of church and state. Because America is not a Christian nation. It is a nation that was built by Christian men for Christian people, but also for atheists, Buddhists, Muslims, Zen, whatever. We cannot single out one religion. Manifest destiny is a form of capitalism that has its roots in capitalism, that has to do with oligarchies, the upper 10% of the wealth around the world are into this nationalism, fascism, and they want to rule the world. Well, excuse me, just because you got paper money doesn't mean that you're more powerful than I am or smarter. We need people who are from the working class to be in Washington and in our states as representatives and senators representing the individual citizens of that state and not big business. Now, Sally Campbell, who writes for Socialist Review, has this article that really talks about it directly. The century since the slaughter in the First World War has been littered with endless, more bloody wars. Sally argues the drive to war is not accidental, but inherent in the logic of capitalism. Please go to our website, read our articles, look at the links, because I guarantee you, if you're able to do that, you'll get more informed. Now, you may not agree with my summations or what I write about, and that's fine. I'm not asking you to parrot me, mimic me, or take me at face value. Look at my research. Read those articles. Do your own research. Become more educated on the issues. If we educate people, we can become a better nation and thus a better world. Now, we're going to take a break from my friend Nasty Purple, better known in real life as Brian Collins. He'll be a guest on our show. But I'm going to show you all a video first by Woody Guthrie's granddaughter, Sarah Lee Guthrie, because it leads us into the next story item about war, but listen carefully to these words.
I've got to know, yes, I've got to know, friends. Hungry lips ask me wherever I go. Comrades and friends, oh, falling around me. I've got to know, yes, I've got to know. Why do your warships ride on my waters? Why do your death bombs fall from my skies? Why do you burn my farm and my town down? I've got to know, yes, I've got to know.
Now, this song was written by her grandfather, Woody Guthrie. And we celebrate his birthday every year with the Woody Festival, Folk Festival. And there's over 90 artists, I believe, that come in. There's workshops, writers, photographers, indoor concerts, outdoor concerts, music that starts at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning and goes until 11:30 or midnight each night for 3 days. 4 days, 5 days. Wednesday is the opening concert that's at the Crystal Theater, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then a Sunday closing. So that's 5 days of folk music. And the Guthrie family comes here, and they're very nice and sweet, but I kind of like what Annie Guthrie told me one time. Annie said the way that her father raised the kids is they were born into the folk music industry because of who their grandfather was. And within this song are these words. Now, if you want to hear the whole song, you want to go to I've Got to Know on Okemah Free Press website. There's a quote by Dwight Eisenhower about the military-industrial complex. But let's take a look at Woody's words. Why do your warboats ride on my waters? Why do your death bombs fall from the skies? Why do you burn my farm and town down? I've got to know, friend. I've got to know. What makes your boats haul death to my people? Nitro blockbusters, big cannons and guns? Why doesn't your ship bring food and some clothing? I've got to know, friends. I've got to know. Wonderful words. But we look at the different parts that's going on in our society with war, and I want to specifically look at this one picture on who benefits from war. Well, $161 billion goes to Lockheed, $121 billion goes to Boeing. Now, this was done from a report from 10/30/2006, so you know these numbers are higher. But 68 billion, 57 billion, 47 billion, 42 billion, 25 billion, 24, 19, 16. Add those all up, comes to about $582 billion was spent for war. Now, I recently went through an online class through World Beyond War. Be sure to check them out. We are a endorser of their peace pledge right there on your screen. You can see to the left. We endorse the peace pledge at worldbeyondwar.org. And I went through their Anti-War 101 class. Real interesting fact. All the countries that do not produce weapons of mass destruction never go to war. So if you don't want war, just don't build weapons of mass destruction. It's that simple. But go to our website and check out everything. We have a Facebook, we have a Twitter, Instagram. If you need to email us story ideas, or if you got something that needs to be reported on, write us at okemahfreepress@gmail. Our Mixer account is mixer.com/peaceful-deadhead. I'm a Grateful Dead fan. After each of our streams, our guests and myself and the people that listen to the streams can join us on our Discord for chat afterwards for more information, or just kind of to debrief what the stream was about. Our website is okemahfreepress.wordpress.com. Thank you for joining us, and come back soon.